slightly more. It's basically to stop the light reflecting, to absorb as much of the energy as possible, and then you insulate the back so you're not losing the heat at the back of the plate, and you stick it in a greenhouse. So you stick it behind the glazing unit. Once you've got a hot sheet of metal, you then transfer liquid, either water directly or more typically a liquid with antifreeze in it. And you transfer the heat from the metal sheet to your hot water tank. So the flat plate is one way of doing that. The evaporator tube is types of evaporator tube, but the principle is similar. The main difference being you've still got a sheet of metal, still treated to absorb rather than reflect. Yeah. But the main difference is the way the heat is trapped inside. So it's trapped within glass, but it's a vacuum. So the vacuum is serves to insulate, stop the heat loss. They are more efficient, which, when the input is free, basically means it can be smaller. Yeah. See what I mean? Yeah. So efficiency is usually a question of how much surface area you. But there are some other advantages of these, which, because they're curved surface, as the sun moves over, there's less of it bound. It's more taken in, rather than these will work at best in the middle of the day at a certain angle and so on and so forth. But basically the difference, so you've got your heat pipes here, and your liquid will be circulated through a manifold unit at the top, so you'd have that kind of situation. Some of them have, so basically the end of the pipe gets really hot, and that's what heats the liquid. Some systems heat water directly, and they get around the issue like last night and this morning where the pipe would freeze if it's on the roof and it's freezing cold. By having there's a couple of ways around that. You can either have a flexible pipe, which if the water freezes it will expand without causing you any grief, or you have a drain back bottle, so at night once the light's gone the water in the panel just goes back into a bottle. So rather than having to replace a cylinder, because if you've got antifreeze, you obviously don't want to mix it with your water. No. You have a separate coil in your tank. So a lot, again, with the DIY fraternity, there's plenty of people who people have reverse engineered the solar print system. You can read about it on various groups on the internet. People have made their own, so that these are, as I say, the main component you need for this is the pump itself. And in this case, the pump, when they originally sold these, it had no controller at all. So you usually have that little unit above that there would be the controller, which will say, if temperature here is such and such, temperature there is such and such, start pumping. Whereas this one didn't have any controls, but it worked on the basis that the pump goes faster when it's lighter, and goes slower when it's less light. So it self-regulates, so the water stays in the panel longer when it's not as bright, and goes full pelt when it's really bright. So the actual design is slightly more than just somebody's done the maths basically. They do actually sell it now with a controller as well, because there are rare kind of meteorological conditions where you don't want a situation to happen where you've got hot water in your tank and it's pumping it out and you're losing the heat through the panel rather than collecting the heat. So it's operating like a radiator. So they have introduced a little 12-volt controller system for them. These are the easiest for DIY construction. You can buy like cheap Chinese. key issue for wind is it's down to, it sounds trite saying it's how windy it is.
Yes.
And the best, and the quality of that wind as well. So the issue is how high